implying that I think that knowing is the enemy of belief. I think that when we know things, what we really are is in a trance where we've locked in the world in a certain way to save us calories, and it's going to be a lot harder for us to open that and consider some evidence. So what I'm getting at is first of all, let's go back to the French Revolution. The French Revolution, Marie Antoinette was sacrificed. Her head was sent to the guillotine. It was removed, and the entire village of Paris went apeshit and had a revolution. And they felt the entire thing was organic. They swore all of this is organic. French lives matter. French lives matter. And one of the things they did is they decapitated the statues on top of Notre Dame. They took off all the statues, and this was the marking. This was the symbolic marking of the French Revolution is here. Liberty and equality. That was the French Revolution. And if your compassion aperture is small enough, you will see that as saying, yes, that's beautiful. I love liberty and I love equality, so let's go burn down some statues. If your aperture was small enough, you would see that as being a great idea. But if your aperture is bigger, you could look at that and go, fuck, both those words are wrong. Liberty means we are in slavery. Equality means we want communism. The words should have been sovereignty, right? It should have been sovereignty. Holy cow, Chris Jones, thank you so much. I've never seen a red super chat. Holy jeez, thank you. Thank you for the daily electricity and gravy, James. It's go time. Hell yeah, it is. Look what you just did. Man. Coldy is a digital 3D artist and physical artist. This is truth in plain sight. Yes, you hear that, guys? Coldy, 3D artist, he knows. When I said cloth sim, Coldy did this. He's like, this guy knows. He knows what he's talking about. He even used the word sim. He totally knows, right, Coldy? Thank you, sir. Thank you. Viva la FLM. FLM. Not sure what that means, Gabe, but thank you so much for the super chat. You guys are awesome. Awesome. So, the French Revolution was not what we think it was. Just like the pyramids were not what we think it was. James, what was the French Revolution? The French Revolution was the installation of a new power center. And in order to have a new power center, you have to remove the last power center. You have to do it. You can't have two power centers around. Remember how I told you how important mystery is? Just like mystery is important, mystery creates a space, a crucible for gnosis, okay? To remove statues creates a crucible for new ones, all right? To remove the head of Marie Antoinette, to remove the head of all the saints on Notre Dame gives room for new ones, all right? It creates it a priori. It's a cause and effect. All right? Friends, if your aperture's small, before the Notre Dame fire, you heard a story that they had to remove the statues off the top of the roof because they were renovating, and they didn't want anything to happen to them. So to make sure that they were not defiled, to make sure that nothing bad happened to these statues, they decided that they would protect them by chopping their heads off with a acetylene torch. That was the way to preserve the sanctity of these statues. And this in broad daylight, you were told that in order to protect these statues, we have to cut their heads off and airlift them in broad daylight in a rapture of bronze. And so while they're in Paris, you watched in broad daylight as every statue's head was removed and it was flown off the building. And then miraculously,
Ce qui est unique, c'est que c'est la première fois qu'on les voit de près depuis qu'elles ont
like, this is crazy. No one here understands French, so I can translate any way I want. And I want people to know that James True is a very wonderful guy who has a fabulous channel, and all the super chats and patrons makes it all possible. So yes, the Swedish Lapland is for him. They in broad daylight is how you get away with this stuff. You erase history in broad daylight. You don't go in and say, we have to tear these statues down because we want to put up new statues, because then people will be like, you can't tear that down. How dare you do that? You have to do it in such a way where it's shock and awe. Shock and awe. And that's what this was, the French Revolution part deux. The second time. And it happened in broad daylight. And people are telling each other, James, they had to settling towards their heads off to protect them while they move them, which is freaking insane. Because if you really wanted to do that, you would wrap them in some sort of protective cloth so they're not seen. If you really truly had to get inside the statue to reach any kind of scaffolding that might have been in there, you could drill a hole the size of a fist in the back or in the front and take them down. Furthermore, guys, one of the statues has his arm and he's holding up a big staff. So his head is not even the thing that's the highest point of the statue. Still, every fucking head was removed exactly where the head is. And it's just like in the French Revolution. Just like it. What you're looking at on screen is the stone heads that were removed. And I want you to read something very important. On this head, attributed in the caption below, it says this: it was the French Revolution, and the people, it's spelled that way, and the people were disgusted by the monarchy. It was not enough to take the king and queen to the guillotine. Even symbols of royalty had to be destroyed. A phenomenon known as Vandelisme Revolutionnaire. And that's what I want you to see, that word. Vandalism Revolutionnaire. And all of these statues were decapitated in broad daylight, just like the kings of Judah, just like Marie Antoinette. We'll get to that. And what happens a week later? The building burns. The forest of rafters that held the Notre Dame has been shown under camera to have a settling torch pointing at them for 18 hours straight, and it will still not catch fire. Notre Dame architects said that the most expensive, elaborate, arson-proof, fireproof system, that has ever been installed or employed ever in the world was installed at Notre Dame. And it happened in broad daylight. And because all of us have an addiction to know there can be no mystery, when all this came out, all of us were told the cause of the fire is unknown. And we, being trained like good little puppets of government education, decided that we now know the answer. What was the cause of the Notre Dame fire? Oh, it was unknown. The cause of the fire was unknown. Yeah, I read it. So you don't have to ask why it is, because it's already been written that the cause is unknown. Why are you bringing up old news? Can't you see news? Do you know how much has happened? Are you not sensitive to Black Lives Matter? Because this is old news. We're talking about new news, right? The cause of the fire is unknown was sold to you as the cause of the fire. So even mystery itself is hidden. They don't want you to think about this. They don't want you to wonder. They want you to think everything's solved. It comes with a certain cortisol. It comes with a certain dopamine hit. It comes with a certain calmness, as the reptilian brain does not fear something that is not novel. The reptilian brain responds to novelty. But we have 7 wonders. They've already been found. We already know what they contain. This is what we do to each other in broad daylight. And my friends, the Yellow Vest movement is the same thing. The Yellow Vest movement is le Vandelisme Revolutionnaire. In October 1793, the Vault of Kings in the St. Denis Basilica had its head removed, which is ironic because the only statue in, check it out, in Notre Dame, there's actually a statue of a saint with his head off. He's actually holding his head, and that's St. Denis. And during the French Revolution, one of the most famous vaults, the Vault of Kings, was desecrated in the name of revolution. The heritage of Paris itself was gutted, raped, and eviscerated to make room for more heritage, for the next replacement, right? And what are you looking at now? Yellow vests and Antifa. Do you really think mopeds spontaneously catch on fire like this? These are high quality, top photography. What I mean by that is that this is how you decapitate heritage. You destroy it in plain daylight and you tell everyone it's for their own good. And people believe it. Because it's Vandelisme Revolutionnaire. And anyone who's upset about anything, anyone who's been ignored, anyone who suffers from dissonance now has an opportunity, a call to the streets, right? A call to arms, so to speak. And yesterday, if you watched my stream, I read out the list of 60, I can't even do it with the hands, 60 statues that the BLM have said these have to go. 60. In the last 4 days, 5 or 6 of them have already been taken down. 60 have to be decapitated and removed. Why? Is it because of Black Lives Matter? Is it because of Black Lives Matter? We know the answer is no. I'm telling you it's because of history. I'm telling you because they are replacing your history. That's why they're doing it. That's what happens because this is how you have to do it. You have to cut the root, the chronic root. Once you do, no one's going to give a shit. They won't care. They'll think heritage is racism. They'll be shamed into even considering that heritage should be more important than that. Let's go to tape.
Down, and then there was a gentleman who was directly in front.
What did you see?
We witnessed they were taking down the monument, Confederate monument, and there was an individual in the front. They were pulling on a cord, and they had been working at the legs for some time. They had been trying to get it down, and then there was a gentleman who was directly in front of the statue, and when the statue finally did get away, it came and fully hit him in the head. And we could see that his skull was actually showing. He was convulsing on the ground. He lost a great amount of blood. And we were just asking everybody to pray for that man right now. Like I said, I wasn't able to get...
All right, what did you see?
We witnessed they were taking down the monument, Confederate monument, and there was an individual in the front. They were pulling on a cord, and they had been working at the legs for some time. They had been trying to get it down, and then there was a gentleman who was directly in front of the statue, and when the statue finally did get away, it came and fully hit him in the head.
Decapitating statues. 60 of them have to go, all under the auspices of liberty and equality. Exact same motivation, my friends. Exactly the same. Man, it makes me cough when I talk French. Same system. Do Black Lives Matter? If a fucking statue lands on one and cracks his skull open, do Black Lives Matter? Or are they less than a bronze statue so that we can make room for new history? I would say no.